Welcome back to our Tales and Folklores channel, where we bring you powerful stories filled with culture, emotion, and deep life lessons. Today, we take you on a journey of love, betrayal, and self-discovery in a foreign land. This is the story of Ahiziji, a Nigerian girl who thought her dream of studying in Korea would be a fairy tale, but reality was far from what she imagined. Faced with prejudice, isolation, and an unexpected romance with the school's most popular boy, Junaseo, Ahai must navigate a world where she is both admired and misunderstood. Will she rise above the odds, or will Korea break her spirit? Stay with us as we unfold a story of resilience, friendship, and unexpected love. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more engaging stories. Let's begin. Ahiziji, or Ahai as everyone called her, had always lived for K-dramas. The swoon-worthy romance, the dreamy school life, the crisp uniforms, and of course, the gorgeous Korean idols. Everything about South Korea fascinated her. Unlike many who just watched for entertainment, Ahai took it seriously. She learned the language, memorized customs, and even followed the latest Korean fashion trends. So when her aunt, Gracie, invited her to live in Seoul, South Korea, to help with her newborn, Ahai thought her life was about to become the perfect fairy tale. Gracie, a Nigerian YouTube lifestyle vlogger, was married to a Korean man, and they had just welcomed their first child. Wanting an extra hand around the house, Gracie offered Ahai the opportunity to study in Korea while assisting with the baby. Ahai was ecstatic. She imagined herself strolling the clean streets of Seoul, eating tteokbokki with friends, and maybe, just maybe, experiencing her own K-drama romance. But what awaited her was far from the fantasy she had envisioned. Ahai had always imagined her arrival in Seoul to be magical, like the first scene in a K-drama where the protagonist walks into a new world full of promise and adventure. The city had been everything she dreamed of. Tall, glittering buildings, clean streets, people rushing about in stylish outfits, neon signs illuminating the night sky. The moment she stepped out of Incheon Airport, she felt like she had stepped into a different universe, one she had long admired from afar. But the magic began to fade as soon as she walked through the gates of her new high school. Unlike in Lagos, where her dark skin, neatly braided hair, and confident presence turned heads in admiration, here in Seoul, it made her a spectacle. The moment she stepped into the school courtyard, the whispers began. Is she a transfer student? Is she mixed? She looks fully foreign. Why is she here? Some students gawked as though they had never seen a black person before, while others stole glances and then quickly turned away, pretending they weren't staring. Ahai kept her head high, pretending not to notice, though her stomach churned with unease. She had prepared for cultural differences, for the occasional misunderstandings, but this was something else. By the time she entered her homeroom, her heart was pounding. The room smelled of new books, chalk, and the faint scent of cherry blossoms from the open windows. Rows of neatly arranged desks were filled with students who had already settled in. As she stepped in, a hush fell over the room. Every single pair of eyes turned to her. Ahai swallowed. She wasn't scared, but she could feel the weight of their curiosity pressing down on her. Ahai SSI. The teacher, Mr. Park, glanced at her name on his sheet before nodding. Come introduce yourself to the class. Ahai had practiced this moment. She had rehearsed her introduction in the mirror countless times. This was her chance to make a good first impression. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward with a confident smile. Annyeonghaseyo, non nuna Ahiziji Nigeria Izio wasioyo. Jal butak jurimnida. Hello, my name is Ahiziji. I'm from Nigeria. Please take care of me. Her Korean was fluent, crisp, and perfect. She had spent years practicing, learning from K-dramas, YouTube, and online tutors. She had expected applause, or at least polite nods of approval. Instead, there was silence. A few girls giggled. Some boys nudged each other, smirking. "Wah, she really speaks Korean," one student whispered loudly. "I didn't know black people could speak Korean," another muttered under his breath. The word stung. Ahai hadn't expected this. The silence, the disbelief, the dismissive laughter. She had expected questions about her culture, excitement about her being a foreigner. Instead, she felt like she had just performed a trick, like some kind of novelty. As she stood in front of the class, heat crept up her neck. She fought the urge to clench her fists. "Smile, Ahai. Don't let them see it bothers you." She had seen this before, in countless stories of black foreigners in Korea, but experiencing it firsthand was something else. The way they looked at her, not with hostility, but with amusement, made her stomach twist. It was at that moment that she realized her issue wasn't language. It was racism. She wasn't just an outsider. She was an anomaly. For the first time, Ahai questioned her decision to come to Korea. Lunchtime was supposed to be a break, a moment of relief from the stares and whispers. But for Ahai, it was the hardest part of the day. She held her tray tightly, scanning the cafeteria. The large, well-lit room buzzed with chatter, the scent of kimchi, rice, and bulgogi filling the air. Students sat in their usual groups, laughing, sharing food, scrolling through their phones. Ahai approached a table with a few girls she recognized from her homeroom. Just as she was about to sit, one of them quickly placed her bag on the empty chair. "Sorry, someone's sitting here," the girl said without looking up. Ahai blinked. The lie was obvious. She turned to another table, but the moment she neared, the students suddenly shifted their seats closer together, making no room for her. She clenched her jaw, willing herself not to react. "Ahai, you knew this could happen," she reminded herself, inhaling deeply. She had seen countless YouTube videos about being a foreigner in Korea, but nothing could prepare her for the sting of being deliberately excluded. With no other choice, she took her tray to an empty corner table and ate in silence. Despite the isolation, Ahai refused to shrink. In the following days, she stood out in more ways than one, not just for being the only black girl, but for how she carried herself. Her Korean was flawless. Her fashion was impeccable, blending her dark Nigerian skin in trendy modern Korean styles. People stole glances at her, not necessarily in malice but in fascination. And among them, one person watched her more closely than the rest. Junesio was a name that carried weight at Seonghwa High School. The heir to a powerful business conglomerate, he had lived his entire life knowing he was above the rest. He was effortlessly perfect, tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp jawlines and piercing dark eyes that rarely showed emotion. His school uniform always looked more expensive than everyone else's, and his presence commanded respect, if not fear. He was the untouchable prince, the type that girls admired from afar but never dared to approach unless he acknowledged them first. And he never did. Junesio didn't waste his time with meaningless chatter or high school romance. Everything bored him. That was until Ahiziji arrived. She wasn't like the other girls at Seonghwa. She wasn't swooning over him like his usual admirers. And unlike everyone else, she didn't seem afraid of him. Instead, she carried herself with a quiet confidence that intrigued him. But that alone wasn't enough for Junesio to take interest. No, it wasn't until one afternoon when he and his elite group of friends, the sons and daughters of Korea's wealthiest families, were lounging in their usual spot, that things took an interesting turn. "A foreigner in our school?" One of them scoffed, stretching lazily in his chair. "She won't last 3 months." "She's actually kind of pretty, though," another admitted, eyeing Ahai from across the cafeteria. "Then how about this?" The smirk on Minjun's face widened. "Junesio, we bet you can't make her fall for you." The group laughed, already assuming he wouldn't waste his time on such a ridiculous challenge. But Junesio was bored. He glanced at Ahai, who sat alone at her table, eating her lunch with an air of indifference. Unlike most people, she wasn't looking at him. For some reason, that annoyed him. "Challenge accepted," he said smoothly, picking up his drink. Gasps erupted around the table. "You're actually going to do it?" Junessio merely smirked, taking a slow sip of his iced coffee. "Let's see if she's as untouchable as she looks." And with that, the game began. Junessio had never had to try before. Girls naturally flocked to him, hoping for his attention, a smile, or even just a glance in their direction. But Ahisaji, she didn't react to him the way others did, and that bothered him more than he was willing to admit. He had seen her struggle to fit in, had watched how others avoided sitting next to her, how some whispered behind her back. But she never shrank away. She still walked with her head high, her confidence unshaken. And that intrigued him. At first, his approach was straight out of a classic romance drama, something Ahai, being a K-drama enthusiast, picked up on immediately. It started with the hallway encounters. "Oh, didn't see you there," Junessio said one morning, bumping into her just as she turned the corner. His hands shot out, steadying her by the arms. Ahai narrowed her eyes, stepping back. "Really? You didn't see me?" she asked dryly, crossing her arms. Junessio smirked, shoving his hands into his pockets. "The hallways are narrow. They're literally wide enough to fit 10 people walking side by side," she shot back. Junessio only chuckled before walking off, leaving Ahai annoyed but amused. It happened again in the cafeteria. The first time, she brushed it off as a fluke. The second time, suspicious. The third time, Jinja. Seriously, she muttered to herself when she found him sliding onto the seat across from her yet again. "What a coincidence," Junessio said, taking a bite of his food. "Coincidence, my foot," Ahai muttered under her breath, stabbing at her rice. Junessio grinned. "I have to eat somewhere." "Yeah, maybe try one of the 500 other tables." But even as she protested, she didn't move. Then came the unexpected defense. One afternoon, as she sat at the library, a student near her made an offhand comment to her giggling friends. "I don't know why she even bothers staying. She clearly doesn't belong." Junessio spoke from behind them. They didn't see him coming. "She speaks Korean better than you do, Mina. Maybe you're the one who doesn't belong." His voice was cold, eyes sharp. The girl paled, quickly looking away. Ahai blinked, surprised. She wasn't used to people defending her in school. "You didn't have to do that," she said later as they walked down the hall. Junessio shrugged. "I don't like ignorant people." Ahai wanted to roll her eyes. This guy was definitely a walking K-drama male lead. And yet, she couldn't deny that, as annoying as he was also ridiculously charming. Ahai had let her guard down. She wasn't foolish. She had seen enough K-dramas to know that the popular, rich, cold-hearted male lead never falls so easily. And yet, she had started to believe that Junessio was different. But she was wrong. That afternoon, as she walked past one of the school hallways, she heard laughter. The familiar, arrogant chuckles of Junessio's elite group. "I can't believe he actually likes her," another senior said. "Junessio always wins. She'll fall for him soon enough." Her stomach twisted. They were talking about her. The realization hit like a punch to the gut. She had been a joke, a challenge. Her chest tightened as the humiliation set in. How could she have been so stupid? The voices grew louder, deliberate. "Do you think she'll cry when she finds out?" "Nah, she's too proud. But I bet she'll transfer schools. No one wants to be known as the black girl who got played." They wanted her to hear. They wanted to humiliate her. Junessio hadn't just let this happen. He had been a part of it from the start. Ahai didn't wait to hear more. She turned on her heel and stormed away. That evening, Junessio messaged her. "Ahai, how are you?" She ignored it. The next day, he tried talking to her at school, but she walked past him as if he didn't exist. For the first time, he was the one being ignored. Jun Seo wasn't used to being avoided, and he definitely wasn't used to guilt. Finally, he caught her near the library, grabbing her wrist before she could walk away. Ahai, listen. She yanked her hand free, her glare sharp as a blade. Was this just a bet to you? For the first time, Jun Seo hesitated. His usual confident smirk was gone. At first, yes. Ahai let out a bitter laugh, stepping back as if she had been burned. Of course it was. Jun Seo's jaw clenched. He hated the way she was looking at him now. But then I really started liking you, he admitted, voice quieter, less sure. Ahai wanted to believe him, but the pain was too fresh. You don't get to play with people's feelings, Jun Seo. And with that, she turned and walked away. Ahai had never felt more alone. After discovering Jun Seo's bet, she had expected things to die down, for people to move on. Instead, the bullying intensified. It wasn't just whispers behind her back anymore. They spoke loud enough for her to hear. She actually thought he liked her. She's so desperate. Imagine thinking you belong here. The betrayal stung, but what hurt more was that Jun Seo had told someone about her aunt. She recalled their long late-night conversations. Before everything fell apart, before Ahai overheard the cruel bet that shattered her trust in Jun Seo, there had been a different side to him. It all started with a simple message on L Talk. They had exchanged contact earlier that day, mostly because Jun Seo had made himself impossible to ignore. His persistent, accidental bumping into her in the hallways was becoming noticeable, and the last thing Ahai wanted was unnecessary attention. If he was playing a game, she needed to figure it out fast and shut it down before rumors started. But somewhere, buried deep beneath her skepticism, a small part of her hoped. Hope that maybe, just maybe, this was her K-drama reality unfolding. That Jun Seo, with his sharp jawline, effortless confidence, and ridiculous charm, was her arrogant rich boy. Jun Seo, still awake? Ahai stared at the message, debating whether to ignore it. She sighed. Might as well end whatever game he was playing now. She debated ignoring him, but curiosity won. Ahai, you're messaging me, why? Jun Seo, why not? Ahai, because I don't trust you yet. She expected him to send back something cocky, something typical of the Jun Seo she had gotten to know at school. But instead, his response was unexpected. Jun Seo, then let me change that. Her brows lifted slightly. Ahai, and how do you plan to do that? Jun Seo, by getting to know you. Tell me about Nigeria. Ahai stared at the message for a long time. No one at school had ever asked her that. Everyone only cared about how different she was, about how she didn't fit into their world. But here was Jun Seo, someone she had already labeled as cold and untouchable, asking about her home as if he genuinely wanted to know. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before she finally typed. Ahai, there's a lot to tell. Jun Seo, good. I've got time. That night, for the first time since coming to Korea, Ahai talked about home. She told him about the bustling streets of Lagos, the loud vendors shouting for customers, the endless energy that never truly let the city sleep. She described the taste of suya, the way the spices burned but left you craving more. And when she mentioned her aunt's YouTube channel, she hadn't expected him to react the way he did. Ahai, if you're really interested, go watch Gracie's World on YouTube. She documents her life in Korea and Nigeria. A few minutes passed before Jun Seo sent another message. Jun Seo, wait. Gracie's World? Ahai, yeah? Jun Seo, the influencer? The one who does food challenges and cultural vlogs. Ahai, yes? Jun Seo, Ahai. My little sister is obsessed with her. She laughed. Ahai, and what about you? Jun Seo, I'm watching now. Her heart did something strange at that. For the next few days, they continued talking. Not just at school, but late at night on L Talk. It became a routine. He'd ask questions, and she'd answer, sometimes teasing him, sometimes challenging him. She didn't realize it then. Didn't know that Jun Seo was still playing a game. Didn't know that everything was a setup for a bet he wasn't supposed to win. His envious friends made sure of it. For Ahai, she didn't know that she had fast fallen for him. And Jun Seo, he had stopped trying to talk to her. Ahai now regretted she might have gone too far with the cold shoulders she gave him in school and unresponsive chats. She saw him in the hallways, his usual calm and untouchable aura still intact. But his eyes, whenever they met hers, held a quiet longing, soft and unguarded, betraying the emotions he refused to say aloud. Ahai ignored it. However, in today's chapter of Jun Seo Betrayal, at the cafeteria someone was showing someone a clip of her Auntie Gracie's baby shower reveal party where Ahai was part of the guest. They were literally pointing out at her after watching with comments like, Ahai's aunt is literally married to a Korean guy. Look at how rich they are. Wait, is she actually connected to famous people? But the comments that stunk was, she only got into this school because of her uncle's money. She's just a charity case. This new rumor, like the bet, also spread like wildfire. Some in denial still claimed she had lied about her family. She was merely a guest in a black party. Ahai stayed silent. She refused to defend herself. What was the point? They were hellbent on sending her back to Africa where she belonged. And then came Tuesday, the day Jun Seo changed everything. Ahai had been dreading this day. Her birthday had always been special back home, filled with friends, gifts, and laughter. She was the girl everyone wants to be seen with. But here, she had no one. She had made peace with spending it alone being a school day. Until lunchtime, she walked into the cafeteria, eyes down, tray in hand, heading for her usual lonely table in the corner. Then she heard it. A microphone crackled to life. Attention, everyone! The entire cafeteria fell silent. Ahai's steps halted. She knew that voice. Jun Seo stood on one of the cafeteria tables, dressed in his usual effortless perfection. White button-up, school blazer, hands in his pockets. His expression was unreadable, but his voice held something she wasn't used to hearing from him. Nervousness. Today is a special day, he said, scanning the room. Someone here is celebrating their birthday. Gasps and murmurs spread across the cafeteria. People began whipping their heads around, looking for the birthday girl. Jun Seo's eyes locked onto hers. Ihizaji, he said, loud and clear, his voice carrying across the room. The entire cafeteria turned toward her. Ahai froze. Her heart pounded. What is he doing? Then, before she could process it, the cafeteria doors swung open. A group of students entered, holding a massive cake, 3 layers, decorated with the words Happy Birthday, Ahai in perfect Hangul. The gasps turned into cheers. Some clapped, others giggled excitedly. Ahai stood rooted to the spot, unable to move. Jun Seo jumped down from the table, walking toward her, the usual arrogance gone from his stride. You thought I'd let you spend your birthday alone, he said, standing directly in front of her. Somehow during their late-night chat, they had exchanged birthdays. He remembered. Ahai couldn't speak. Jun Seo took something out of his blazer pocket, a small, neatly wrapped box. Here, he said, offering it to her. Ahai stared at it, then at him. Why are you doing this? She finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jun Seo exhaled, his jaw tightening for a moment. Then, softly, he said, because I was an idiot, and I don't want to be anymore. The cafeteria held its breath. This was not the Jun Seo they knew. Ahai's fingers hesitated before taking the box. Her heart pounded as she unwrapped it. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet, a small Korean and Nigerian flag charm intertwined. Tears burned her eyes. You don't get to fix this with a gift, Jun Seo, she said, her voice shaking. I know, he admitted, his voice softer than she had ever heard it. Then, To everyone's shock, he did something no one expected. Junessio took a step back, bowed deeply, the kind of bow that meant true, sincere apology. Gasps erupted. Ahai's breath caught in her throat. "I was wrong," he said, still bowing. "I hurt you and I can't take it back. But if you let me, I want to be your friend. No bets, no games." The cafeteria exploded in whispers. Ahai stared at him. Junessio, the untouchable, arrogant ice prince, was apologizing. For her. Slowly, she exhaled. And then, she did something even more shocking. She smiled. "You better mean it, Junessio," she said, taking the bracelet and slipping it onto her wrist. Cheers erupted. Junessio's lips curved into a small, genuine smile. And just like that, everything changed. By the end of the day, Ahai had gone from outsider to someone everyone wanted to know. "You're really best friends with Junessio. Can we sit with you? Your outfit is so cool. Where do you shop?" For the first time since she arrived in Korea, Ahai wasn't alone anymore. Junessio had done the impossible. He had turned her worst day into her best one. And as she glanced at him from across the cafeteria, she realized something. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of their story. Maybe it was just the beginning. And that, my friends, is how Ahizagi turned her struggles into strength and found her place in a world that once seemed against her. But what happens next? Will Ahai's friendship with Junessio survive the weight of their past mistakes? Will love blossom, or will their differences tear them apart? Let us know in the comments what you think. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating African tales with a modern twist. Until next time, stay inspired and keep believing in the power of your own story. See you soon on our next story.